Hello and welcome. I was sitting here minding my own business last night, February 10th, and leaning back in my chair with my feet up on my desk, just relaxing. And I felt a little unstable for a second or so. And at first I thought it was me, but then I thought, no, I think that is actually an earthquake. And took about 6 or 7 minutes to me receive confirmation. I have two apps on my phone. One is called Earthquakes and Volcanoes, and the other one is the Disaster app for Android. And they both come through saying there was a 6.7 magnitude earthquake near Talise in the Philippines, just on the north end of Mindanao Island, and close to Typhoon City, right about in this area here. That red dot isn't exactly where it occurred, I don't believe, more over to the south and west of there. 3 deaths are reported, some buildings are down, and I felt it. So this is Surigao City in this area. This is Bohol Island. I'm in Cebu City on Cebu Island right there. I felt it, so it, of course, went out in all directions. I've seen one report that it was 10 miles deep, another, or 10 kilometers, another that it was 23 kilometers. Whatever, I felt it. We are located in the Ring of Fire, which stretches up around Asia in through the parts of the U.S. also. And up through the Alaska, the Aleutians. We receive a lot of smaller earthquakes in this area. I read about many over in Indonesia, and of course up in Japan, that area. But this was big enough that it did some damage. Now in 2013, Bohol Island had a fairly large earthquake, took down a lot of the older churches there. They're still working on rebuilding some of those. And Cebu City felt it. The condo I lived in prior, the manager told me that, people ran out of the condominium. And that was in 2013. It was like a 7.2, I believe. People ran out, some of them with little or no clothing on, trying to get to safety. And I've asked many people about that, and they said they were sleeping and they thought somebody was shaking their bed, so it was a pretty good shaking. But all the buildings stayed up during that earthquake in 2013. Pardon me, the app that I use is called Volcanoes and Earthquakes on my Android phone, and the second app that I use is the Disaster app, put out by some scientists who study what's going on in the earth, what's going on with the sun, and the relationship between the two and the earthquakes. And they send out alerts for different areas that are probably subject to greater earthquake depending upon the magnetic forces that we're going to receive from the sun. And they've got a lot of free information. They also have a site where you can join and get additional information. But I recommend that the Disaster app for Android and for Apple. Here is Google Earth map of the area. And let's see, a lot of the earthquakes that I read about are down here in Indonesia and up in Malaysia. But we get our fair share here, and you get them up towards Japan up here, of course. So here we are. Right in this area here, I believe, is where the earthquake occurred. Surigao City. I may not be saying that right. And then here's Bohol. Here's the Cebu Strait, the waterway, and then there's Cebu right there. And so it traveled out in all directions. I felt the wobbling right there. Not so far, really. Now, as long as I'm here, let me just mention once again about typhoons. And I've done a couple of videos about weather here in the Philippines. One is called Philippine Weather, You Like It or Not. And we have a typhoon season, but typhoons don't always go by the rules. They can come anytime, but there is a season, and they come from across the Pacific, and occasionally they come through this middle area, but more often than not, as they come this way, they turn north, and they might go through the Manila area up through here. More often than not, they come up here. The Bataan Islands, the smaller islands just to the north of Luzon Island, are often get the alerts. And here's Taiwan. Often they swerve on up this way. One good thing about living in the central islands in the Philippines, Cebu City in particular, is that here, this being Cebu Island right here, is that the typhoons that come in here hit these islands first. They hit Leyte and Bohol, and it takes a lot of the energy out of the typhoon before it hits Cebu City. And I've seen two that have come pretty much through this area, and they really didn't mount to much more than a little bit more rain, a little bit more wind, nothing drastic at all. So think about that. If you're going to move into these eastern islands, your chance of being hit by those storms is much greater than if you live on the west side or in the middle here someplace. Now, nothing is guaranteed ever, of course. Now, I did have my table that this computer sits on fall over shortly after that. I don't think it had anything to do with the earthquake. I was sitting back and resting my feet on the side, and the locking mechanism that locks the legs in on one side isn't very reliable, and it gave way, created a bit of a mess. I had a bottle of insecticide below the table, and it broke that open, spilled that all over some of my papers, and so I spent half the night cleaning that mess up. I think this was the fourth earthquake that I felt. First one when I first moved here almost a year and a half ago, a couple months in. It was just a quick jolt, and it's like you're sitting in your car in a parking lot and somebody just barely bumps you. You can feel it. It's not big, it's not damaging, but definitely was an earthquake. The next two were so very slight that I really questioned, what was that? Was that an earthquake or what? They were that small. This one actually lasted about a second, and it was kind of a rocking motion. I'm just a little bit unsteady. At first I thought, oh, maybe I'm a little lightheaded, but definitely was not the case. Of course, I'm never lightheaded. I do like to keep things in perspective. Earthquakes are happening all over the world. We get a number of them here. There were 3 reported deaths at this time and some buildings down. I think I have felt 4 earthquakes when I lived in California. A couple of them pretty good jolts, but not really damaging. And a couple a little more the rolling fashion again. They're happening all over the world, so you just need to take the precautions that you can when you can, and enjoy your life. Take the precautions you can. Enjoy your life. Thank you for coming along, and please share, please like, please subscribe. Safe travels wherever you're at, and we'll see you next time.